everybody, and welcome to another edition of Serving It Up. I'm Jim Hayes, along with Lance Lynn and Matt Holliday. Kyle Gibson, not with us today. He's on kid duty, which happens to all of us from time to time. Plus, he's going to be looking for another job opportunity, so he's working the phones today, I guess. Kyle was just released by the Orioles. So, gentlemen, I want to start with that because I think the process is interesting. You both been in a situation where your run with one team ends and you're looking for the next opportunity. I'll start with you, Lance. How does that process work? Is that like you just sit back and wait for your agent to do his thing? Or as a veteran of many years with connections, do you work the phones as well?
Yeah, you kind of do a little bit of both. You see what's out there, what's available. Right now, you're looking at kind of injuries, guys might be banged up a little bit, things of that nature. And you'll find most of those things out on your own more by talking to other former teammates and stuff like that than maybe than your agent will. For Kyle, he's in a weird spot because it's different, right? In the middle of the season, you don't know who needs what they're looking for, this and that. He came off of a not so friendly run right out of the gate here. And to his credit, he gave it everything he could. But when you start spring training late and, you're trying to play catch up from the get go, it's tough. And now he's going to be in a boat where he's going to have to see if there's a major league deal out there, which you never know. And then you're going to have to be okay with the possibility of going on a minor league deal. And then you kind of are out of the controls, out of your hands if you sign a minor league deal somewhat. There's still ability to do upward clauses and this and that for teams. And, he's got to, make that choice if he's willing to do that and if that's what he wants to do. But heck, he's in the middle of the season. He's done the prep. He's done all the work to get to where he's at. So hopefully he gets to keep pitching and get to kind of right the ship this year because I've dealt with it a little bit in the past when I was in Minnesota. They could have released me in April. I had a 9 ERA in April in Minnesota that year because I showed up late to spring training. But they didn't, and I was able to turn it around and ended up with an ERA that was respectable by the end of the year. Unfortunately, Kyle didn't get that opportunity.
And it's win-win for him because he wasn't certainly wanted to pitch another year as well. So hopefully he gets that chance. If not, he's got a great family. And as you guys say, he already has the bag. I think Matt Holliday says that a lot. But
we got 5. We got 5 to go home. Then I guess that's the way, you can always look at it as a positive way. Hey, you get $5 million to go home.
That's win-win-win. So Matt, you've been in that situation where you're looking for the next opportunity. Do you have an agent that takes care of everything, or are you working the phones too?
Well, I mean, I think that the agent is certainly going to speak to the front office people. I think as a player, you're always looking for fits and what might fit one, as far as competitiveness, what's your, how competitive are they? Are you looking to play on a winning team? Are you looking to get closer to home? Is location important? Is the money important? So you take into all those considerations and then, so I think that both, like Lance said, I think you obviously, when it comes down to like some of the logistics and how close it actually is, the agent certainly can just step in. But, in 2018, when I went back with the Rockies, there was only a few teams at that point that I was willing to play for, and like Lance said, talked to a few of the current players on the roster. There was some push to get me to come back there and help them, as they were entering into a playoff run. So the older you get, I think the more you start to look at it yourself and try to figure out what's a great opportunity for you and your family and where you fit well. And I think that's something that you have the benefit of doing as you get older. And like you said, if you secured the bag, you can pick and choose with what you want to do. So like Lance said, he's, if nothing works out and it's picking up, taking kids and moving on to the next chapter, I'm sure, Kyle is in a good place with that. But, you just feel for him because, there's, like Lance said, no spring training. They're in a bit of a mess. The Orioles with the starting pitching's been pretty erratic. And so they're kind of in an emergency state and don't really have the freedom. If they were 5-6 games over 500, they might have a chance to let Kyle kind of work it out and get what spring training would have been for him under his belt. Location starts to come back, because I think his stuff was good. He was just leaving, balls over the middle of the plate, but I think eventually it would have come around. But like I said, they've got off to such a rough start that their margin for error is very, very slim.
Yeah, not having the regular spring training obviously hurt him too, as Lance points out. So I was wondering about this. So you guys financially secure, wonderful families, but that first day where you're home and not playing somewhere, in your case, Lance, not pitching somewhere. Now, I know it was your call. You probably, could have taken a deal to do something somewhere. You said, that's enough. If I'm not making this much money, I'm home. But that first day you are home and you're not pitching somewhere, what's that feeling like? Because it's obviously years in the making that it's a new situation.
For me, I guess they had the off season and spring training to kind of like get used to the idea, if that makes sense. Because it was like, all right, well, if this didn't happen, I guess I'm done type thing, or if I don't get what I want. So I kind of build up to it. It wasn't like a, hey, you're released and that's it type thing. So for my sake, I got a little bit of a build up and was able to mentally be okay with it. But that being said, there's a time when you're like sitting there and you're like, you watch a game and you see a guy, you're like, I'm better than him. Like that still eats at you a little bit. And I had to learn. I think I'm gonna tell you the 15th of April. I think that was the only day so far of the year that I was like, man, I missed playing, because that was the first time I never got a paycheck in about 14 years. So, and then after that, I was like, oh, you're fine. That was it. That was my day. So I had 24 hours where I missed it a lot, and then I was like, nah, you're good.
So you just instead went to the app that has your investment statement and were like, oh yeah, I don't really need that check on the 15th.
I called my guy and he's like, you're fine. Go enjoy the boat, So it was good.
Matt, what was that like for you the first day in years that you're on a couch or at the kitchen table instead of playing, knowing that there were other opportunities for you, but at the same time, you're home doing something you haven't done in a while during baseball season?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the real part about, because I think like when you're still freshly out of it, or like Lance's case, like you say in your brain, you're like, I can still do it. Like if I want to, like if Lance said, hey, you know what, I changed my mind and I want to go pitch and I can get ready in 6 weeks. Like in our mind, I think for a few years after you're done, you're still like, he said, like, oh, I could do what he's doing, or I could go play if I wanted to. You start, at least for me, like there was still a couple years after I stopped playing where I was like, I could, dial it up and get ready and go play again. But I think that for me, the hard part, or not the hard part, but I think the point where you're like, you know what, I'm done. Like I'm officially done. And like, I don't really think, even if I just don't have the desire to rev it up. And so that's when you're like, okay, yeah, I'm really, really done. Cause I think at least for me, like the first year or two after I stopped playing, I was like, I if the right opportunity, or, if get a wild hair and train and go to spring training and see what happens, I could still do it, still jump in the cage and let a few rip. And you're like, yeah, I still got it. But I think that, at some point you go, you know what, there's no opportunity that would make me want to leave home and go try to make this happen again and manage that schedule again. So, yeah, I mean, I think the probably the weirdest thing for us as a family was the first spring training that we didn't prepare to go to, where like February rolls around and, you're used to kind of that rhythm of life where you up and go to spring training, and then from spring training to the season, and, March rolls around, April, May, and you're still, in the same rhythm that you are the rest of the year, sort of in this off season type rhythm. So, that was a bit of a, adjustment, I think, for our family and for me in particular. But, it's just, on to the next chapter and what that looks like. But when you've done it so long and that competitive spirit and that competition of playing at the highest level, it's really hard to replace anything close to that. So I think you miss that. You miss the competition, but you certainly can replace it with a lot of other great things.
Quick shout out to our sponsor, Kovac Mechanical. They've been serving the St. Louis area since 1947. The warm weather's here. You better get the AC checked. So call Kovac Mechanical. They've got the latest technology, best customer service in the business. I can vouch for them. We've dealt with them. We know these guys. Total pros. Air conditioning, heating, call Kovac Mechanical, 636-343-4410. And time for a really dumb question, but got to ask. Matt Holliday, if suddenly, somehow the universe warped and you had to take a pinch hit at bat, say it's for the Cardinals in a major league game right now, could you get a base hit?
Like right now without training or hitting?
No.
I haven't hit in a while.
Boom, like all of a sudden there was a warp and you found yourself in the 7th inning facing the Reds, and Oli Marmol says, Holliday, you're pinch hitting. Could you get a hit? Could you give a competitive at bat?
It's going to be a lefty reliever for Burleson. So think about like that.
Okay. I need to know. I was going to say, if you tell me who it is, I think I can probably give you a better answer.
Is he low 3/4 with like a little something that comes down and in so he can scoop it? Then,
yeah, I was going to say, is it 92, 93, or is it 98, 99? Because that matters.
If it's Chapman, no.
If it's 92, 93, I have a chance. I don't like my chances because I haven't hit in months. But I think that, I mean, look, I could get lucky. Yeah, I mean, I think I could get lucky just because I've done it a million times, but I don't love my chances. Not a lot. No.
Be a sinker down the way, shoot through the 4-hole.
I mean, I have a chance, but I don't like them.
I love your answer. All right, so Lance Lynn, it's a save situation. We're talking 1-out save. The universe warped, right? You're in the bullpen, and Oli Marmol gets up there and he says, "Send in Lance Lynn." Kind of not like when Tony did it. I'm talking about right now. Boom. There was a warp in the universe. You've transformed into a guy in the bullpen. 1-out save. Could you do it right now? No training.
The answer will always be yes. 1 out. You can always get 1 out.
I was going to say, it's a round ball and a round bat.
1 out. You can trick them so much with one, but they see you that second time. Hello.
Yeah.
I like it.
The round bat, round ball option is always out there.
Yep. You just never know. And you throw nowadays, if you throw slow enough, they just don't know what to do with it. Like you're better off backing it off than you are trying to get more.
That's like when they put the position players into pitch. You're better off throwing 45 than you are.
You can always get 1 out.
It's kind of true. The other night, the Tigers went with a position player, and then they released him the next day. And one moment he celebrated, hey, I pitched, and then he got cut loose. But
she's not a great sign.
Brendan Donovan, right? Brendan Donovan has hit everything, and he grounds out against a position player, right? That's kind of nuts, isn't it?
Well, the whole game, everything's geared up for 95 plus. You go in there and you throw anything below 78 that's with or below her, it's like you get in the 60s, it's impossible. Anything that a hitter hits that's below that speed's batting practice, but it's from 45 feet, Matt?
Yeah, so I think it's a no-win situation too. You're like, oh my gosh, I can't make an out against this position player. And then it's next thing you know, you foul one off and you're like, this is not good. And so it's then
it turns into please don't strike out. Please don't strike out.
if he humps up and gets to 84, I might be right by me.
Yeah.
Did you ever you never pitched? Did you ever say I want to pitch? I remember that was Yachty's goal. He wanted to pitch. Albert wanted to pitch. Did you ever get a shot, and did you even want to?
No, I never got a shot. I mean, nowadays where you just lob it, I think when I played, guys were actually kind of trying to somewhat still throw, kind of hard, kind of throw a slider, kind of just, see what would happen, really try to pitch. Now they just lob it. I mean, that doesn't sound like fun. If you said, hey, this is your last, couple weeks and you can get up there and and try to get somebody out, that would be fun. But the lob ball, I don't know. I don't think that'd be that fun.
I want to tell this story because Yachty was such a great player and so intense. But when he was, I forget where they were, but it was a game that's out of hand. Yachty's pitching, he's giggling, he's laughing. You know, he's high. He got a guy out, like he goes in the dugout, he's high five. And then after the game, I go to his locker and I said, "Look, I know the result is, unsavory. You're not happy with the way the game went, but did you have fun pitching?" And he said, "No, we lost." And he was totally downplaying it. And then this old reporter from whatever city we're in said, "Hey, is that ball in your locker the game ball from the strikeout you got?" And Yachty had to admit that the answer was yes. He kept the ball because he had a ball as a position player. More serious topic. And Matt, you're close to the situation. So the Orioles are obviously underperforming right now, right? They fired their manager. They made some other moves. Your son, by the way, is playing really well, and we'll get to that because he's hitting leadoff, which I think is kind of cool, and I guess he's embracing that. But so I know you're a parent of a kid who plays for the Orioles. You're not going to be overly critical, but what do you see as what the Orioles are dealing with right now?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's you as a team, you try to build up depth for injury. I mean, everyone knows that injuries are part of the game, particularly pitchers. So you go into a season trying to think that we need to accumulate depth, and that you are going to sustain some injuries. They've sustained Grayson Rodriguez, and then Bradish is not back until probably July or August from Tommy John. So those are their two, I would say, guys that have an opportunity to really dominate a game with stuff. And so it's they've had some injuries. Tyler O'Neill was their biggest offseason sign, and he's been out, a good bit. They haven't hit the ball as good as I think they're capable of. I think they've, I look at some of these numbers now, like their expected batting average and some of these numbers that if you look a little closer, they've been a little bit unlucky with some of these guys like Adley Rutschman and there's been at Mountcastle, like they've had some bad luck, which is, in a combination with the injuries. So it's kind of been a lot of things. I think it's been to get off that bad of a start with a talented team that's won 90 something last year and 100 the year before. You have to have a lot of things sort of go the wrong way on you, and they have. And I think it starts with pitching injury. And it's one of those things like Lance, when you play long enough, you see periods where the games you pitch well, you don't score. The games you hit well, you give up runs. The games the starters are pitching well, the reliever has a rough day. And so it's been one of those things where when you look at a team like them that has talent, but they're losing at the pace they're losing at, it's always something seemingly. And so I think it's been rough, but I think that they are capable of getting hot and sneaking back into the wild card hunt at some point. But they better get going soon.
Lance, what's it like when you're on a ball club that is underperforming, right? I mean, it's a big part of your life. Negative vibes are all around. What's that like?
It's obviously it's no fun. The game kind of naturally beats you down anyways, and when you have those flows of injuries and like Matt said, when you pitch well and you don't score runs, when you score runs and you don't pitch well, it's just like every day it seems like something's just kicking you in the dick. To be honest with you, like there's really, and the harder you try, like the bigger the hole gets. And they're still a young team, and they've had a lot of success at the big league level, quick too, and they've won games. So in their mind, it's like, hey, what the hell's going on? Probably too at the same point, because they're like, hey, when we were supposed to win or weren't supposed to win games, we're supposed to be young or whatever, we were winning games. Now we're supposed to win games and we're not. But injuries happen, and when you don't pitch, like everything snowballs. That's the truth of the matter. When starters don't go deep into games, at least 6 innings, and have respectable starts, everything snowballs. You feel more pressure on the defense and offense, and then the bullpen gets overexposed, and that's what's happening. And you look at their offseason, they signed some guys that, were, some depth pieces and this and that. I think that you're looking at, they didn't do enough to go for it, in my opinion. That's my opinion, as in you let Corbin Burns go, you don't get a bona fide, hey, here's our pillar to go with our young starters, and then you add the veterans at the 4-5 spot, right? They didn't do that. They were like, hey, hopefully these guys take the next step. Hopefully these guys that are older don't digress. And then you're like, you're kind of hoping, and then our offense will carry us, because that's what it's been doing the last couple of years. And it just kind of all backfired on them, to be honest with you. And then everybody else is going to take the fall for the lack of, I don't want to say quality roster, because they have really good quality. I think it's just like a championship roster, and it goes with an ace, right? If you have Corbin Burns, you're probably talking a little different, because then you can sustain, and then you can add the depth pieces, and that's a different story. I think that's really killed them.
You agree with that, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, look, when you talk about Corbin Burns and Santander, I mean, Santander hit 40 homers last year. And so, you lose those two guys, and that any team that loses I would say Corbin's probably an industry-wide top 5 starter in the game. And Santander hitting 40 homers as a switch hitter is very, that's a big piece. I think he brought a lot to the clubhouse, Santander and Corbin, as far as examples. And so I think sometimes the presence in the locker room gets overlooked. When you start thinking about replacing numbers, you can, this guy will take this, you start to replace numbers, but I think sometimes it's overlooked when you have a guy like Corbin Burns as an example for young players, and just example for everybody, and how he goes about his work and those kind of things. So it's certainly not a perfect science about roster construction, but I think everybody, when you lose a bona fide ace and a 40 home run hitter, you're going to feel the effects, and you combine that with injuries and some of the things that they've had. It happens. I mean, this isn't the first time it's happened. And so, it's like I said, it's not a perfect science. So you're just trying to adjust and then hope that you get healthy. I mean, I know Bradish is a really good pitcher when he's healthy and is coming off Tommy John, and like I said, I don't know the timeline. I haven't heard, when he's coming back, but he and Grayson Rodriguez, if they could get them back in the somewhat near future, I think could change things up quite a bit.
Yeah. You lost 2 pillars, if you think about it. You lost a switch hitting 40 home run guy in the middle of your lineup, and you lost your stopper when it comes to skids as an ace. Like, when you lose that, like, other things have to go perfect for you the next year, and the injuries have not allowed anything to go perfect.
I'm a Tyler O'Neill fan. I think he has a skill set that's really unique. Like, he's really fast. He plays pretty good defense, and he can smash baseballs. But it's been not just one set injury. He's had like a laundry list of injuries along the way, dealing with injuries again this year in Baltimore. So he's a guy, as I recall, he told me that he never was injured in the minor leagues, even with all the weight training. He said people would say, hey, you can't lift that much. You're not going to be durable. And he said he wasn't hurt at all during the minors. Now it's caught up with him. What advice would you give to a guy like Tyler O'Neill to try to stay healthy? And I guess I'll start with you, Matt, if there is advice to give on that.
Yeah, I mean, look, he clearly takes care of his body. He eats healthy. I mean, he clearly trains and taking care of his body. A lot of times with guys that get injured a lot, you might say, well, you could adjust this part of your diet that might help, or this part of your training. And I don't know exactly what he does as far as weightlifting and his training and, what extent he goes through. I think that there's some guys that for whatever reason, injuries are part of their career more than other guys. And I don't know that there's always like a, if you change this, it'll work. Or, I think that there are guys that, hey, sometimes you have to back off. You have to let them DH. You have to give them maybe a few more off days than other guys that, you just want to keep them in the box as much as you can. And to me, Mike Trout really comes to mind, where at some point, this is just my opinion. I say, look, Mike, you're going to DH, 3 days a week. You're going to play right field 3 days a week, and you're going to have an off day once a week. And really, I don't need you to beat out infield hits anymore. I don't need you to really steal a base unless we're in the middle of a playoff race. I don't need you to go first to third if it's going to be, I think that you can manage your body and you're exerting your energy in a way that's safer than playing balls to the walls all the time, which I know fans and everybody, that's what you want and you want to see. But at some point, like, having Mike Trout's cleats in the box is the most important thing. And if you can get 145 games out of him in the batter's box because you're DHing him, you're watching, making sure he's not running crazy to where he might, step on the base wrong. Like, I think that's kind of what he did and jammed his knee up. So I think that there's a way that you can manage these guys a little bit, but sometimes it's just bad luck and it's part of sport.
Is that way with pitching too, Lance?
Yeah, I think you're looking at pitching. You can have a great body guy or a bad body guy. Some guys just stay healthy. That's just the way that their body works with what they've got going on. And I think in all sports, it's the guy that stays out there more times than not is a guy the day that you like, hey, this doesn't feel great, but I don't have to go 100% or throw max effort to be productive today. I can kind of feel my way through this game without breaking something. And that's how, I was able to get away with some things in my career by not throwing max effort. I think pitchers these days are all max effort guys, so it's a little different for them. I think older in your career, you use it when you need it, right? You don't just rip it all the time. And I think that's what Matt's talking about position player wise. Like, there's a sense of you have to figure out what's your governor. Where can you just kind of roll without putting yourself at risk, and then pick and choose your times to ramp it up and let it out. And I think that's part of getting older. That's part of the game. But all these guys, pitching and hitting, what's my bat speed? What's my exit velocity? What's my this and that? You're going to break if that's the only thing you think about. You have to know your body. And, hey, if I throw 95, but I don't feel great today, if I try to throw 95 every time, something might snap. So how am I going to get through this game going 91 to 92, and then I can spike at 5 when I need to after I kind of lube it up a little bit as the game goes on, and then your body just kind of takes over for itself instead of pushing through those things max effort, and you're just going to blow old piston because you didn't quite rev it up the way you needed to. Is an easy way to say it. So some guys are just going to break. There really is nothing you can do about it. You can eat healthy, work out, do all this. Naturally, your body's going to break because you're doing something to put pressure on certain things, and eventually something's going to break a little bit.
And I guess the main thing is be smart about it, is what you both said. I just remember Albert Pujols or Yachty late in their careers didn't run out of ground ball. There'd be fury among some Cardinal fans. It's like, no, don't you understand? Right? We would like to keep these guys healthy as long as we can, so maybe it's okay they don't. So
sometimes a hard 90 is not necessary if you want 3 at bats.
Right. All right, so I'm going to go back to you on this one, Matt. If you ever had a stretch where you weren't hitting at all, right? Team's losing, you're not hitting, whatever. If you ever had a stretch like that, how do you decompress from Matt Holliday, the guy who's really pissed off about the way he's playing or the way the team is playing, to dad and husband at home? How do you decompress? Or did you?
Yeah, I certainly think perspective of like your big world perspective. It can be, when you're in the middle of it, you seemingly, your life and your schedule is wrapped around, your game, and you're at the field and your performance and that can consume you at times. But I think that for me, leaning heavily on my faith and my family and a world view that is healthy. And I'm not telling you that I got it right all the time, because I didn't. But I think that having a healthy worldview and having a mindset that doesn't get too far ahead and doesn't look too far behind, and is able to, sort of positively and confidently look at like the process and go, okay, I'm not getting the results. I need to address the process, address my mindset, and then, sort of get back to the work, sort of turn the page. I think, that probably is the most effective way to kind of get out of, the grind of it, or the frustration of it. But it's hard. I mean, there's times when you care, which I really cared. I cared about performance. I cared about being accountable to my teammates, and I cared about, the contract that was entrusted to me, and living up to that contract, and the fans, and those things did matter to me. And so I think there's times when that really matters, that it can be difficult to not let it take it home, and not get too frustrated with it. So it's easier said than done in my case. But I think, like I said, I think hopefully, my worldview and your faith and your family can help you keep a proper perspective.
How about you? How did you manage those times, Lance?
They're always tough, right? Because you're failing and you're not helping your team win and stuff like that. So for me, I try to like compartmentalize where when I went home that was there, and I'm here now. You have to have your moments where you can decompress and do something like that, where you can kind of get away from it all the way around. There was times where, where I was like, hey, or especially on off days on the road, like I need to go play golf and get away from the game all the way around, right? So try to find little things. So you have your family time, and then you have baseball time, and then you had to find a little bit of time for you to kind of just be away from everything. So that was my mindset. Where I was at was the moment I was in, and then I can bring back to the game when I get back to the game, and then I can say, hey, you have these things, right? So take a deep breath and go play the game, right? It is a game. It is what you do for a living. You want to succeed. You want to be the best, but you also have to be realistic. Like, it is a game. So try to take a deep breath, try to understand the things you have, and understand, hey, I'm going to be better. And just because I had a bad one doesn't make anything else change. I got to go get the next one. So it was like I try to reset by really understanding and being thankful for the other things I had, and then coming back to the game, and then not letting it take away the other things I had, if that makes sense.
I'm going to circle back to the Orioles now, okay? Because your son Jackson is playing very well, and he's now the leadoff hitter. I know he's been hitting leadoff 8 out of last 9 games. Has he found a home there?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably where he'll be moving forward, except maybe against lefties, or maybe a tough lefty. I think that it's been a good fit. He played really well there in spring training, and so I think the idea of having Gunnar, who had been hitting leadoff, the idea of having him maybe in a little bit more of a run producing role, hitting second or third, it seems to be the strategy now. So yeah, I mean, I think for the foreseeable future, I think that's probably where he's going to be.
Lance, you just had to move. I was just wondering why you decided to be mobile there.
Every kid just got home from school, so you were about to hear all that. Last day of school here too, so they all just walked in at the same time. We're good.
Do you have, Lance, any household chores, like things that you have to do? See, in my life, there's certain things, if I don't do them, I'm going to get in big trouble with my wife. Do you have chores that are yours that if you don't do, you will
So
hear about
they
it?
just don't get done. Yeah. So I got a couple things. I got obviously trash, right? You do that. So I'm trash. Dishes. I feed all the animals. We've got 5 goats, a mini horse, 12 chickens, 3 dogs. So yeah, and then obviously you got to bush hog the pastures, all that stuff. So stuff like that.
You have a mini horse.
Mini horse, Earl.
Why?
Why
What?
not?
No, I mean, did one of the kids want a mini horse, or did you
Somebody
want
was
it?
riding a mini horse, and the next thing you know, we got a mini horse, and everybody wants to ride the mini horse. But when it's all said and done, when you've got some pasture, it's just free yard maintenance. So it's when it's all said and done.
Smart. Thinking
Yeah,
thinking of the bottom line.
it's either pay for gas or a mini horse. So at least you got something to look at out there.
Matt, how about you? What are your household responsibilities that you are responsible for?
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on the day. I think I'm certainly in charge of the trash, certainly in charge of the dishes. Although I do a lot of the cooking, so the nights that I do most of the cooking, Leslie will do the dishes. Um, I cook a lot for Ethan. I make his breakfast in the mornings, and now that the kids are out of school, probably all 3 of the current kids that are at home, I'm in charge of the breakfast, and then anything else that might come up, happy to help.
Can you
So
fix stuff around the house?
no, horrible at that stuff, but I did make enough money to hire people to fix stuff, so I'm willing to make that call. I think that's the real advantage. I have limited skills at most things. I can cook a little bit. Manual labor. I can move things and carry things and I can do things. But as far as like having any skill that's helpful around the house, it's pretty much call somebody who does.
Lance, you too?
Yeah, I mean, if you're talking like if I'm definitely would need a heating and air guy if it came to that. I'm not going to be able to
Say
fix
Kovac
anything.
Mechanical so they get their money's worth.
Bingo, Kovac Mechanical. I would need them in a heartbeat. No, when mechanical stuff, like there's a few little things I can do, but like I'm not going to be able to like if I can maybe change your oil, that's about as deep as I can go.
It's good. I can't change
I
it.
was gonna say I appreciate that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's been my that was one of the things my grandfather taught me when I was younger. He was saying, "Hey, a real man changes his oil." I'm like, well, I made enough money where
That hurts.
I
Yeah,
can
that
pay.
hurts a little bit.
I go. I made enough money to pay a real man to do it. Now I don't know.
Yeah.
It's
I'm not saying
emasculating. It's
I've not changed it.
emasculating.
I've not changed my oil or changed a tire since the day I made a major league. So I'll tell you that.
All right, let's talk about the Cardinals because we haven't really talked about them much. Playing very good baseball. I want to ask you about fan perception because fans are upset and rightfully so. It's their money. If they want to go to Busch, they don't want to go to Busch. It's their money. They should do whatever they see fit. But take for example times when Oli Marmol some fans wanted to run him out of town. Now all of a sudden they're playing better baseball. It's pretty good. Miles Michaelis, they wanted him gone after that Boston outing. Since then, he's been very good. He's not going real deep, but he's keeping his team in ball games. His ERA is like around 2 right now. All of a sudden, hey, Miles is still a pretty good pitcher. So when you were playing, and I'll go with you, Lance, on this one, right? The hot and cold relationship with the fan. What's that like? Because I know you guys care about fans, but fans will turn on you too. So how do you handle that?
Obviously, that that's part of the game, right? And I will say this: there's no player that wants to stink, no manager who wants to lose or anything like that. So I think fans sometimes need to realize, like, hey, they're not out there trying to be bad, too. So, but you want to win, you want to succeed, you want to give them fans something to cheer for, or if you're on the road, you want something for them to boo at because you want them to hate you. So that's part of the game. It's part of the process in this sport. It will go in and out. Like right now, the fans from the get go this year, they want to blame Oli and do all this. Ollie's playing the card that he was dealt. There's really no other way to say it. You cannot sit here and blame Oli for anything. And then you want to question in-game moves, go ahead and question him. But he's always got a method to his madness of why he's making what move and this and that. And people need to realize not everybody is available every day, bullpen wise or position player wise. And no, it's not, you don't need to know why they're not available. It's none of your damn business. That's where I draw the line. Okay. It's like, hey, it wasn't available. That's it. So I think, hey, there's obviously some realistic, or there's some obvious reasons why people aren't available. Helsley just threw the two last 2 days in a row. He's not available. Or this reliever's obviously been dinged up. He's not available. So I think there's got to be a little bit of just knowing the obvious, and sometimes that's not always there. But hey, when I was there talking to Oli, seeing how he operates, seeing how he's operated with every other manager I've had, Oli knows what he's doing and knows what he's trying to get done each day. Some days it just doesn't go the way anyone hoped it would, or this or that, and you got to just figure it out on the fly. And when you're, like you said, and if you're kind of handcuffed bench wise and this and that, you have what you have, and you have to play the hand you're dealt. You're going into games with 4 guys in your bullpen available out of the 8. That happens a lot. So I think Oli does a hell of a job. The staff does a hell of a job. They put Miles in a situation to where he is succeeding in what he does well. He gets quick outs and he does a great job the first 2 times to the lineup. Things have a tendency to sneak up on him that third time through, and it happens to a lot of people. There's hey, this is what you're doing. This is how we're doing. So they've really pushed those things on, and everything's starting to click. And you got to give this team time too. A lot of these guys have not played at the big league level for a long time and had a lot of success. So you got to figure that out too, and they're starting to do that.
Just first, your thoughts on Oli, Matt, and also when you're going through a rough stretch of the team is, and you hear that fans are sort of getting upset.
Well, I think they've probably at least come around a little bit at this point, being 5 or 6 games over 500 and right in the middle of the NL Central. So that's got to be exciting. I mean, I think that when you talk about baseball is the ultimate second guessing sport, right? So everybody can, after the decision is made, everyone gets a chance to second guess and say, well, if you would have done this, the outcome would have been different. And no one ever has to be accountable to whether that's actually true or not. So it's one of those things. I think that going in that, like, and especially now with social media, everybody has an opinion, right? There's a platform for everybody to get their own second guess out there and their own opinion out there, and why this guy's doing this or that guy's doing that. And like Lance said, there's days where there's people that are unavailable for reasons that you don't necessarily want to or can disclose. There's guys like we talked about earlier that if you keep leaning on them, they might break, right? So you protect them, particularly early in the season for maybe later in the season. And there's guys that my this or my that is a little bit sore. I could go today, but and then as a manager, you weigh the pros and cons of do I push now? Do I play that card now, or do I use somebody else and fight another day? And so I think that that's all part of managing. And then you have this group of fans that don't trust you and that you're making the right decision, and they don't know the ins and outs of what's going on inside the clubhouse or how their family life's going, or there's just so many things that go into 162 games that that you can't really share, that fans don't really know. And then, like I said, baseball is the ultimate game where sometimes the right move doesn't turn out great, and everybody thinks you should have gone the other way. And they very rarely like to point out how great you did when it goes great. But as soon as it doesn't go the way that you had hoped, everybody, like I said, has a platform to tell you that was the wrong move.
And so I would imagine, I know you guys aren't big into social media. I'd imagine if you're a player, Oli, manager, coaches, you try to block out that stuff and not entertain the unwanted feedback from social media. But you have friends, family, right? Lance, you hear about stuff, don't you? Even if you're not browsing Twitter or looking through Facebook as well, you hear about stuff, don't you?
Yeah, you're always going to hear something. There's always that negative reporter that talks shit too. So you just got to learn over the years. Like people that aren't with you every day and know what you're going through, you want them to enjoy the game and all that, but they can't matter up here. They don't matter in there because they're not a part of it. They don't know exactly what's going on. They don't know, what you're dealing with physically, what's going on anywhere ever, and they can make like say whatever they want online and get their 2 seconds of whatever makes them feel good. But it's like I always tell this to someone, like, hey, what are you doing? Like, hey man, what if that guy has a bad day at work and we blew him up online because he didn't finish whatever he was supposed to start that day? And they would be like, oh, well, that's not the same. It's exactly the same, really. It's just that no one cares that they suck today. Everyone cares that we suck. So that's just the way that it kind of works. And that's the beauty of this game, right? We get paid a lot of money for people to talk shit to us. So you hear it, you let it go, and then first and 15th, you enjoy yourself, and they don't matter.
Did you ever
That's
let
simple,
any of
right?
that? I get it. Did Matt? Did you ever let any of that stuff get to you?
I mean, I think I did a pretty good job of keeping my circle tight. I certainly think that there's times when, um, you know, you want the fans to like and appreciate you. I mean, everybody wants to be appreciated and live up to their contract and their place on the team and their spot in the batting order and their performance. I mean, and yeah, I mean, I think you're human, but I think it is important for baseball players to. I mean, look, social media is part of our culture now, and I don't think that these young guys are ever going to like totally get off of it. But I do think that they need to be careful and letting, like Lance said, opinions of people that have no, they can't add to your life. They can only sort of get in your head or make you think things that aren't true. Or so I think it's a very slippery slope in today's day where everybody has a platform and guys use their platform to make financial gain and to use their platform to get whatever message out there they want to get out there. But in doing that, you're also expose yourself to a lot of people that don't like you and they don't want you to do well, and they're going to say things that they know might upset you or get in your head. And so it's certainly an interesting time for players and dealing with the social media. And you brought up Facebook. I didn't know if you were going to include MySpace and all the other things that you're on, Jim. But
Jim.
I think
I have
it's tricky. Do people get on your MySpace page, Jim, and
I
criticize
have
you?
Twitter. I have Twitter, and I have YouTube. That's all I got.
Oh,
And the truth is, I agree with you because negativity gets clicks, so people tend to be more negative. There's no question about it. I've also, as an adult, come to the realization that 90% of what I read on Twitter probably isn't totally accurate, right? And there's agendas all over the place. So I think I'm smart enough to sift through it. The only thing that's good all the time on social media are pictures of my dog Stella.
yeah.
And I tweet those out a lot too. So I think we're right.
I'm gonna add on to this. The only time that I will truly or would ever truly get upset with anything that anyone said, if a guy played the game or a reporter knew better and they just did something to make themselves more, like, just to kind of put themselves ahead and do stuff like that. That's where I struggled. And it didn't matter if it was towards me or towards a teammate or anybody like that. That was like, they know better. Like, and like fans, they can say whatever they want and think and see whatever, and they never lived it, so they don't really know better, if that makes sense. But guys who lived it and played it and went through it, they know better. And that was the only times in my career where I was like, all right. And then I would make sure I talked to that person. but that was it. Like, fans say whatever they want. Like, they're seeing things through one lens, and they got to make their own assumptions of it. But people who played the game and been around it and been in clubhouses, traveled, done all that, and then they want to pop off like, they did it perfect is a struggle for me.
Most Cardinal fans are great, in my opinion. I mean, my life is being around people who know the Cardinals or
Yeah.
might reckon, but there's a difference with the negativity on Twitter, and you have to be able to differentiate that. At least my opinion. I think you guys have some in common. I think you're almost more appreciated now than as players. Like for Lance, when you were here, it took people a while to understand your personality and how you dealt with the media, and then they enjoyed it and then they loved you, but it took a little while.
Yeah, it took me to be gone for 5 years. It's like, hey, go away for a while, and then maybe we'll like you later. And that's part of it, right? When you're there, I was not in the time of my early career, right? You had Tony, and you had Carp, and those guys. Like, I was kind of, and then it transitioned. You had Wayno, who would literally tell everyone, "Gosh darn it, tip my cap," and that's who Adam was. If I had a bad game, I didn't want to fucking talk to anybody. That's just who I was. Like, Adam's over there tipping his cap to everybody who got a hit off of him, and I'm pissed off and want to stab everyone in the neck that got a hit off me. So, like that, it took me, and it obviously took me a while to like grow and understand. Like, hey, you're gonna lose games, and you got to be a professional. But at the time when I came up, everyone wanted me to be. It's like everybody forgot I was young at one point, and like when I was 24, 25 years old in the World Series and this and that, and you had your good days and your bad days, but like somehow they've like everybody, Shelby Miller and Joe Kelly are not that much younger than me, and Waka, but next thing you know, like, oh, they're young, we'll give them a break. But Lance has got it. I'm like, bro, I'm the same age. Like,
Just because you're like a big hairy dude, you got that big
everyone's
beard.
like, man, I remember when I retired, one person around town's like, man, like I thought you retired 10 years ago. It's like, bro, 10 years ago I was 28 years old. Like, I was in the prime of my career. So it's like people, I guess I was always kind of a little bit older, and I was in the Mott and Boggs category of age group. That's what they thought, but I was 4, 5, 6 years younger than those guys.
And then I think you learn to sort of embrace it and have fun. And Matt,
if you want me to be a dick, I'll be a dick, and that's
right.
That's what. All right,
I'm going to curse for the first time. I'm going to curse for the first time on this.
Uh-oh.
But you did scare the shit out of some media because, one, you're a big guy, and if you're in a bad mood, they're afraid of you. But secondly, they also were scared about the question to ask. Like, they were scared to be able to roll with it.
I learned to let my smart ass out is what I learned to do. And I will say this: Chris Carpenter and Jake Westbrook really, really helped me be able to combine the two, right? Because Carp was so intense and so like this, and Jake had such a good way of like, man, he could jab you, and you're like, that was good. I'm still processing how good it was. Like, that's how, and so I was able to like combine the two. And they told me one thing that I never forgot is, hey, as much as they act like they're your friends, they will throw you under the bus in a heartbeat. And so I've never lost that, because early on in my career, I had a few things that when I told the truth, it felt like people would take jabs at me. So after that, it was like, all right, I'm going to tell you what I want to tell you, and that's it.
Yeah, I mean, you have to protect yourself. And Matt, I think you're different in that you just hated talking to the media about yourself or whatever. And I think there was, maybe I'm wrong, a perception of he's a little aloof. And I was like, no, not at all. Or you got the reputation. He's a lead by example guy. He doesn't say, no, he says a lot, just not to you, the media. So I think after a while, people got to know you more. Plus, I don't think there was any more who did more charity stuff around town than you. I think after a while, people started to understand you. Do you agree with any of that, or is it all nonsense?
Well, I mean, I don't know what aloof you're referencing. Like, I don't know exactly what that means. I would never have considered myself aloof.
Did he just call you? I feel like he called you ditzy. Like he
right.
was like,
aloof
that's the first time I've been accused of that. You know,
You know what?
Matthew Trevor Rosenthal.
Aloof just means kind of distant, not wanting. Like
Oh,
in the
over.
media sessions.
Got
Like wanting to separate yourself from it.
well, yeah, I didn't handle it probably as good as I should have, but I think that there's times when you're grinding the season and you spend so many hours there and you get to the end of the game and the questioning, the line of questioning, at times could be repetitive or obvious. And I did, like I said, I'm not proud of every post game I ever gave. I enjoyed probably more of like the pregame banter of talking and, more about like, yeah, I mean, look, like I said, there's times where you're whatever's going on, with how you feel about the game or what's going on that you don't really want to talk too much with the media, and it's it's an everyday thing, or I think there was times where Lance, I'd be interested in what you thought, where it seemed like the media was just hanging out, and if you were one sitting close to your locker, like they just came over and started asking you questions because you were there, and so nobody wanted to be around them.
I
And
think
it's like,
people don't understand there's some annoyance at times. And
yeah, like, pregame, you
Wasn't
guys are
everybody?
just hanging out because the clubhouse is open and everyone's just chilling, listening to your conversations and trying to get a piece of information. And, they're kind of sticking their ear out. And, if you're sitting at your locker or you don't seem to be doing something, like you're available. So like, we'll take it. So they come over and you get the standard line of questioning of the dumb questions, and then that's when you're like, you know what? That's why nobody's in here. Like, there's nobody in here for you to talk to because you have no point of being in here. And I think that was where me and some others would get frustrated. Is like, look, if you have an angle and you want to talk to me about something or you have a story to write, but I don't want to be like your guy because you have to put something in the can, as you like to say, Jim. I'm not just going to be your easy can, and I felt like at times I was your easy can.
This was an attack on me
No.
then. All right.
No. But I do feel like that you would try to get an interview with me and put it in the can.
It's just buddy. He was buddy guy.
Listen. I'm going to defend. There are some. I agree. There might be too many folks in there that are tourists in a sense. Like I get that, but like the writers, and there's some people that need sound for their own report, like the Kilcoins, Cusamanos. There's some young reporters doing the same thing, so they do have a job to do. But everyone's kind of scared to go up to the player first. That's just so it seems like everyone's just hanging out. Like when I go in there, trust me, I'd rather be eating or looking up stats or whatever. But I understand what you're saying. But I would say most reporters are in there trying to find an angle or get an angle, but they're just too scared to ask. And I will say that I respect this because if there was any media covering my work, like for example, if I ever gave a wrong stat or stumbled over words, if that ever happened in my career, and at the end of the night, I had 5 people with microphones going, "Why did you stumble and give the wrong stat?" I wouldn't enjoy it either. So I empathize. But I will say, I think most of the reporters in there have a job to do. They're just kind of intimidated to go ask someone a question.
Well, that's what the PR guy's for. Go be like, hey, I've got this story for this person. Yeah. Can you help me out? It's that simple. So the problem is when you're sitting there watching the Kentucky Derby race just because you have nothing else to do except stand in the clubhouse, hoping that you catch something or somebody saying something or this or that, and where you can write a little thing. That's the problems. It's slowly turned into the media's clubhouse and not the players' clubhouse. And that's one thing that I hope that the union kind of nips a little bit. When you get guys comfy on a couch watching TV, it's like, come on now. It's like, why don't we just fucking make this the media clubhouse and we'll just hang out in the hallway?
No, I get that. And I feel guilty. I always look at myself as I'm a guest in there. Like I'm a guest and I try to act accordingly. But I also, on the other hand, will sometimes make small talk with the players. So when they see me approach, it's not like I want something every time I come up to you.
Yeah, and I just think guys like you that are on the plane and that we see every day, it's totally different. Like I don't think we have any trouble. Like, I mean, the people that we know and we mess with, and we can, that you're on the grind with us. It's the people I think that just pop in and you don't really know them, and then they're next thing you know, they're you're just kind of, I think that's where, or like Lance said, like guys we've never seen before, they show up in the clubhouse and they're watching the TV and just kind of making casual talk with just because the clubhouse is open, they're in there. Like, it's like, do you have something to do in here, or are you just hanging out? Because like this isn't like just a hangout.
All right, last thing, and I'm going to try to leave on a positive. I want you guys to rate the St. Louis media in terms of being nice, being fair, against the media in other cities in which you played. And I'll start with you, Lance, and hopefully we can end this on a positive for St. Louis media.
Well, in all, you're looking at the media. If you're looking at compared to big markets, like they're easy. Like truthfully, like New York and LA, like you got to watch what you're doing even more. St. Louis, Chicago, Texas, Minnesota, those were all very similar media markets. So you knew who all the local people were. You knew who was there. You knew you knew everybody. So you were able to like kind of have that working relationship with, because you see them every day and you got to know them a little bit. New York and LA, my goodness, there's people I was in LA, I was 13 years in the big leagues, and people I've never seen before in my life. On the road to cities I've been on the road to that were road people. So that was a different world. You had to mind yourself a little bit better, as in senses you couldn't trust anybody in this sense, because you didn't know who was after what, or what they, or who they were writing for, or this or that. So that was a different world. And that's, you learn to, I tell guys this, you learn to be short and say what you need to say without saying anything at all in those places. And then in the other markets with St. Louis, you can actually give a little bit more and give the and the fans are easier to kind of work with too, because they are more your the media is more talking directly to the fans. Those big markets, they're trying to get on the bigger stages of ESPNs and stuff like that. They're trying to get different type of clickbait.
Right? You agree with that, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't play as many places as Lance, but I think that for the most part, like I have a good relationship with a lot of the people from St. Louis. I mean, you play long enough, you figure out the guys that are, like you said, they're actually just doing their job and have some funniness and wit to them, and are fair, and you can push back on certain things, or address things that you don't agree with, and that it can be cordial in that way. And you get to know people, like in St. Louis, and there's few enough media that cover the team every day that you can actually get to know them. I think in larger markets and larger cities, it's hard to even develop any kind of friendship or mutual respect for one another, because there's so many of them, and you're just you basically stand in front of a group and try to be honest, as honest as you can be, and be accountable. And I think that's really what fans are looking for, is honesty and accountability. And like Lance said, sometimes that's short answers, but that's ultimately, I think, what your responsibility is as a player is to be accountable and be honest.
Gentlemen, you were both accountable and honest and gave great answers during this episode of Serving It Up. That's going to do it for this week. We'll see you next time, and hopefully the next episode won't suck.